Hi everyone, this is just a quick video on the best ways to prepare for the MSRA. So I sat the MSRA this year, 2025. I was applying for GP and Psych, so I applied and I sat it in the kind of like January, February period. And then I got my offer for Psych and I got GP as well, and ultimately I went with Psych. So this is hopefully just something to help you with your revision and kind of planning it. So I already knew that I wanted to apply for GP and Psych quite early on, so I started my revision quite early. So I started at the end of kind of F1, which I know some people thought was like really crazy and they couldn't get it, and why I would bother doing that. And people kept on being like, stop, like, why are you doing that? But for me personally, I just liked having more time to do it because it meant that I could take like a slower pace with it, and I didn't feel like I was having to cram and rush at the end, because that kind of studying style doesn't suit me at all. But I do think that if you're someone who prepares and prefers to kind of cram and do things a bit more like intensely towards the end, you could probably just give yourself like 3-4 months and that would probably be fine. But I just prefer to be able to take it like slowly. In terms of the content, it's basically finals. So if you've done UK medical school, your final exams, that's basically MSRA all over again. So I think for me, the main thing I struggled with was just learning the kind of like niche things again. Like, you kind of know what it's about, you kind of have a rough idea, but the nitty gritty you kind of have to relearn. But everyone's in that boat. Everyone has to just relearn those things. You know, the things that you've been learning during foundation year are kind of more practical, and kind of more judgment things, like the specific scientific and clinical whatevers. Also, I found for me, the jobs that I'd worked in were areas that I was a lot stronger on, and things where I hadn't thought about those topics for a long time, I was a lot weaker on. So I had to do a lot more things on obs and gynae and pediatrics because I hadn't worked in either of those, and those were pieces of knowledge that I'd basically just not had to use. So identifying those areas early on can really help you to kind of structure your revision and figure out where you need to improve and what you need to work on. If we focus on kind of just like the clinical things first, I would say question banks are the way forward. I used PassMed and I used Revise MSRA and I used eMedica. I do think that it's good to use a variety of question banks. I think different companies and things phrase things different way and have focus on different areas. So giving yourself that kind of opportunity to see a breadth and kind of variety kind of helps you to better prepare, I think. I wouldn't say that one is better than the other, they are just different. eMedica is more expensive, but the layout of it is a lot more similar to kind of what it actually looks like in the exam, so it's kind of helpful to have seen the kind of format and layout. But yeah, I just really liked the variety of it. Things like Revise MSRA, you can kind of click through quite quickly, so you can do a larger sum of questions in one go, compared to if you go for like eMedica, where they're a bit more like wordy and it takes a bit longer. It's really helpful to do an exam at the beginning, just to kind of like see where you're at, identify again those areas that you're weaker on, and then go from there. I found for me, question banks again was the way forward, but if I found there were areas where I just couldn't remember things anymore, like I was getting confused between the different types of postpartum hemorrhage, or there's some kind of key concept that you're not getting, sometimes it's helpful to just take it all the way back. So I would then look for like videos like Osmosis or Armando Hasurigan, people like that, or going on, oh my god, what's he called? I can't remember his name, but he's really good. I use his website all the time. I'll have to get back to you with that. Why can I not think what he's called? Anyway, using kind of resources that you use during medical school to just like refresh that knowledge, learn the concept, and then do some specific questions on that concept and just reinforce that knowledge. I had a thing where every time I got a question wrong, I would create an Anki card from it, so that I was kind of doing cyclical learning on that content and going around and refreshing it. So I would really recommend downloading Anki. It's free, and it's just like a really great software. It's kind of like spaced repetition. It'll bring cards that you don't know as well, and you rank kind of like as knowing words up more frequently. So it's just a really great resource to build in some cyclical learning. Deep breath. So yeah, those are my main tips for clinical things. And then moving on to kind of SJT. I was the last year that did SJT at the end of uni, that kind of got like ranked in for our ranking. But if you again apply to UK medical schools and you sat the UCAT, you'll have done situational judgment then. and it's literally the same thing all over again. SJT is just practice. It's just recognizing patterns, and there's kind of like there's different scenarios, and they might like frame them slightly differently, but it's always the same concepts. So if you're getting used to seeing those questions and understanding how they like to phrase things and what they're looking for you to show, it kind of comes with time. I don't think there's any kind of like magic bullet or something I can tell you specifically to help you with that. There are some kind of like basics which you probably already know. So like lying is bad. So anything where you're lying or like trying to cover things up, rank that low down. That's not going to be the right answer. Generally speaking to the person directly. So if you're having issues with someone or you're worried about someone, talking to them directly about it is basically always literally, I can't think of any examples where it wasn't, but most of the time it's going to be like the top one. And then kind of your priorities being patient care and avoiding patient harm and those kind of things. But it's really just getting used to the questions, doing as many as you can. Again, I think it's really helpful at the beginning of your revision to do a mock paper. Just see where you're at in it, what kind of a score you're getting, areas where you're weaker, areas where you seem to be doing okay. Because if you do really well in it, then like forget about it for a bit, concentrate on the clinical questions and getting your knowledge up to date and improving your score there, and you can come back to SJT later on. There's no need for you to be doing the situational judgment revision if you're already doing well with it. So that's just my last piece of advice on that front. So in summary, you can prepare very easily, utilize question banks, utilize a range of question banks, identify your weak areas early on, download Anki to do cyclical learning. So I hope that's helpful.